Alright guys, so today I'm going to be doing CHING number 134. I do want to apologize for any mess behind me. I set up like a new way of how I'm doing like my whatnot shows as winter is approaching. I do not want to be filming downstairs in the basement because it gets too cold. So I do have a little bit of a mess back there. So we're just going to get back into CHINGs, and this one is number 134. So the first thing that I have is this was a new old stock set of vintage honeycomb pumpkins wearing little witch hats. So there were 3 in the packaging, made in Japan. Eric and I had won quite a few of these at an auction. I'm not sure how many more I have left. I did decide to keep one set of the, I have a set that are shaped like witches with little brooms. I did decide to keep a set of those for myself because I was like, oh my gosh, I fear that if I sell them all, I'm going to regret not having kept a set. So anyway, these sold for $39.99. I had quite a few sets that had already sold, and like I said, I'm not sure if I have any more or not. The second thing that I have is actually an old toothpick holder. This was by a company called Consolidated Lamp and Glass. Eric and I found this at an auction. We paid, I want to say it was definitely less than $20, and that sold for $99.99. Next item did go to a subscriber named Kathleen. She purchased a set of 2 Old World Christmas glass ornaments. These had Santa Claus faces on them, and those sold for $13.50, and I picked those up at a yard sale. Next item came from an auction. Eric and I won kind of like a stack of some DVDs, but they were like TV episodes and things like that, like boxed sets. So these came in like a set of some DVDs we won. This was the Unsolved Mysteries DVD set, and it was a 4-disc set that sold for $19.99. Next item came from a yard sale. I paid, I'm pretty sure it was $1 for this. And this was an e.l.f. Jelly Pop Glow Stick. And e.l.f. cosmetics are, you know, pretty affordable on the cheaper side, but these, for whatever reason, they were like watermelon infused or something like that. And some of those specific cosmetics pieces from e.l.f. were selling on the higher side, and this sold for $22.99. Next item came from an auction. This was for an old slipware pottery bowl. This was pretty large. That sold for $99.99, and that did go overseas. Next 2 ornaments went to a subscriber named Dana. She purchased 2 Department 56 ornaments, and these had like such a cute little whimsical feel to them. The first one was a reindeer holding a sign that said Noel. That sold for $15.99, and the other one was for a reindeer wearing sneakers, and that one sold for $19.99, and they both came from a yard sale. I also sold, this was a Dale Earnhardt t-shirt. Eric won a bunch of like older NASCAR shirts at the auction, and literally just like a week or so ago, there were more of them at the auction. So one of the things with that type of thing, like everyone at the auction kind of knows everyone else's eBay names. So we always are looking at, you know, what everyone else is selling and for how much. So as soon as you win something at an auction, the other people at the auction will see, you know, what the item is selling for and that type of thing. So the next time something similar comes up at the auction, you have more people bidding on it and that type of thing, so you're not getting it for as cheap of a price that you did beforehand. So he had gotten like a bag of like NASCAR shirts the one day at the auction, and I mean, I think maybe he paid $20 for like a whole big bag full of them. And then the next time they came up at the auction where there was more, you know, people were paying sometimes like $10, you know, for like one shirt. So it, you know, that's just how it goes with reselling. But anyway, this one sold for $69.99, and it came from that first original bag. I don't think he listed any of the ones that he won recently, but he knows like what to look out for as far as those go. And one of the big things to look out for with like not even just vintage NASCAR shirts, but just vintage shirts in general, you want loud, you want like the double-sided ones where there's like a graphic on the front, on the back, like all over type of thing. They call those like all over prints, and those ones are the ones that are typically worth more money. Next item I sold was a pair of vintage Vans sneakers. So these are an older pair of Vans sneakers. They have what they call the puffy tongue, where like the tongue in the shoes is like real big, real puffy. So these were probably from, I would say, early 2000s era. Those were the kind of Vans sneakers I used to wear when I was younger. Picked those up at a yard sale. They sold for $39.99, and I probably paid $1 to $2 for those. I actually sold a decent amount of clothes this time around. Typically, I don't pick up clothes super duper often and that type of thing, but there were a lot of clothes that sold, a lot of shirts. So this next one was a t-shirt. The brand was called Radio 1 versus The Prisoner. I don't know, never heard of it before. I'm pretty sure this came from a yard sale, and I think we paid $1 for it. That sold for $19.99. The next one was by a brand called Disturbia, which I do believe is like a UK brand. That one came from a fill-a-bag rummage sale, and that sold for $29.99. The same person that bought the Radio 1 purchased this next one. This was by a brand called One Industries, and that sold for $19.99 as well, and came from that same yard sale for $1. I also sold a vintage Lagerfeld perfume set that sold for $49.99. I'm pretty sure that came from an auction. Next item also came from an auction. This was for a vintage skipper outfit. So just the top and some shorts. That came on a tray of some stuff I won at an auction. There was a lot of dolls that day, and you'll see like other dolls in this cha-ching. But that came with some other stuff, and I'd say I paid maybe $20 for the tray that it was on, and that sold for $59.99 just for an outfit. I also sold a set of new old stock. These were vintage hefty freezer boxes. Those sold for $14.99. I picked those up at a yard sale. They took a long time to sell. So if I ever saw them again, I'd probably not be very anxious to grab them just because they sat for so long. Next item went to a subscriber named Barbara. This was for an older, from the 1960s, wicker box purse. I did win this at an auction, and it sold for $39.99. Next item came from a yard sale. This was a Sharon Barron artisan made jointed teddy bear. I paid $25 for the bear, and it sold for $162.50. I'm pretty sure I'm out of bears. I might have one more left. I'm not sure, but I have purchased like all the bears that she had at the yard sale, and I feel like I sold them all, but I might have one more. Also sold a vintage, this was by Hall. It was a pink teapot. They called this shape the Aladdin because it looks like an Aladdin lamp. That sold for $79.99, and I think that came from an auction, I want to say. Next item came from a yard sale. This was for a band t-shirt. Someone had cut it into a tank top. Had they not had cut it into a tank top, it probably would have sold for a lot more, but they, you know, cut the short sleeves off of it to make it into like a tank top. But this was a motionless and white tank top. I'm pretty sure we paid just $1 for it at the yard sale, and it sold for $29.99. Next item was a Martha Stewart Halloween themed hourglass. Eric and I actually purchased this at Home Goods. Was it Home Goods? Yeah, Home Goods. Wasn't last year, I don't think. It might have been the year before. We did a little bit of retail arbitrage during Halloween at Home Goods. I keep wanting to say at home because there's also like a similar store called At Home, but I'm pretty sure it was Home Goods. Anyway, so that came from there. So we paid retail price for that, which at the moment I'm not sure what it was, but it was less than what we sold it for, obviously, and that sold for $39.99. Next item came from a yard sale. This was a Halloween themed table lamp. It had like a little girl dressed as a witch on it. I think we paid, I want to say $5 or $6 for this lamp, and I sold it for $69.99. It was by a company called Homestead Shoppy. I know I was just talking about the mini Boyd's Bears and how they haven't really been selling well. This one did sell decently. So these little mini Boyd's Bears, the ones wearing sweaters that say something, it just depends like what the sweater says basically, and sometimes the collar matters too, as far as like a price goes. This one was a little mini sweater bear and it said smile, and that sold for $49.99, and I probably paid about 50 cents for it at a yard sale. Next item did come from an auction. This was the same auction where I was saying like some dolls came from. This was a vintage Mattel My Child doll. So these dolls, specifically the My Child dolls, can sell well. This one had her full original complete outfit on. She was a little bit dirty. I didn't clean her only because, you know, the people that are buying these things who are collectors know the proper way to, you know, get these items clean and that type of thing. So I did not touch her. I just sold her as I had found her. But she still sold for $49.99. I sold a little, this was a miniature teapot. It wasn't like a full-size teapot. This was by Victoria and Albert. That sold for $19.99, and that came from an auction, and I'm pretty sure it came with another teapot. I don't think we had won it, just that one. Next item also came from an auction. This was for a Van Gogh Sunflowers coffee mug that sold for $34.99. I had kind of a few of these and they all sold. I think this was the last one. Next item I want to say also came from a yard sale. This was like a hobbyist ceramic painted piece of a scarecrow that sold for $29.99. It was in really nice condition. The paint was done really nicely. Also sold, I think this was my last black obsidian heart stone as well. I had won like a tray of these at an auction, and that sold for $19.99. Sold a vintage Avon hairbrush. I have a bunch of these. I still have quite a few left, but they sell every now and then, and you know, it's kind of like a consistent type of sale, not every week or anything like that, but as people are looking for them and things like that, they do pop off. This one sold for $22.99. That's what, you know, I have as the price for those, and I paid $1 a piece for them at an auction. Next item also came from an auction. This was in a box lot of some other stuff I won. It was a vintage Looney Tunes duffel bag that sold for $19.99. Next item also came from an auction. This was a set of 4 vintage green Bakelite bangles. Those sold for $39.99. I had one, like a little tray of Bakelite bangles. I still have some more left. I was thinking in my mind to lot them into similar colors and that type of thing, because I have some other colored ones as well. Next item was a Remco I Dream of Genie doll. So this was a vintage Remco doll. Again, came from the same sale with the dolls. That one sold for $25.99, and again, that was on a tray of stuff I won, probably on the same tray as the Skipper outfit. I also sold a Yankee Candle Halloween themed tart warmer. Pretty sure I picked this up at a yard sale. I want to say I paid $5 or $6 for it. It was a really nice, was it at a yard sale? You know, this might have been from an auction. I can't remember. Anyway, it sold for $69.99, which is a very good price for a candle warmer. Next item was also from an auction. I had this for a while. Again, it was like a box lot type of item. This was marked Bavaria, Germany. It was a little like ashtray slash trinket dish that sold for $9.99. Next item, I'm pretty sure it came from a yard sale. Eric had purchased this. This did take a while to sell as well. It was an Olympus camera lens that sold for $17.99. Next item also came from an auction. This was a really neat looking pink jar. The lid had this really cool design to it, and it was made by someone named Andrew McCorkindale. This actually did go overseas. It sold for $49.99. I sold a Catherine Lily White Halloween ornament. This one was of a black cat that sold for $9.99. I feel like these are in like every CHING that I do. I also sold a Dooney and Burke purse. This had a bee print all over it that sold for $59.99, and I picked that up at a yard sale. I'd say I paid $5 for it. Next item also came from an auction. This was a very large Norman Brum enamel copper bird sculpture that sold for $275. Eric has literally a ton of these left. So there are some listed, but we still have more that is not listed yet. Again, another vintage Avon brush set. This one was like a set of 3 Avon brushes that sold for $49.99. Also from that same auction where I purchased the other Avon brushes, and I'd say I paid $1 for those as well. I wouldn't be able to do that again because, like I said towards the beginning of this video, now everyone knows that vintage Avon brushes are worth money, so I'd never be able, I'm sure, to buy them for $1 again at the auction. Next item also came from an auction. Again, tray lot, box lot type of item. It was for a coffee mug, and it had like military vehicles all over it that sold for $19.99. Also sold a cloisonne pig for $22.99. Again, auction item. This actually came on some trays of Monet trinket boxes that we won. They were just kind of like mixed in there. Also sold a vintage Valentine's Day card. This actually did go overseas as well. That sold for $9.99. It's typically what I price my vintage Valentine's Day cards at. And this was in like a shoebox full of Valentine's Day cards that I won at an auction. Also sold a pair of Birkenstock sandals. These were in the, what's the word I'm looking for? Style name called Freeport. Those sold for $69.99, and they also came from an auction, as well as this next item, which was another doll that was on a tray of stuff. Again, probably the same tray that I Dream a Genie and the Skipper doll was on. This was for a 1965 Tootie doll that sold for $12.99. And again, I think this one went overseas as well. Next item was for a lot of vintage plastic, like celluloid plastic food, like play food, that sold for $15. And again, auction box lot item. Next thing was a 2001 G.I. Joe doll. He was nude. He had no clothes, that poor man. He sold for $19.99, and I got him at a yard sale. He was in a bag of some other miscellaneous G.I. Joe type of dolls and items, like little accessories and things like that, which I'm still trying to go through and part out, you know, what is worth money type of thing. And I think the bag of the G.I. Joes, I paid $5 for the whole thing. I also sold a set of shiny bright Christmas ornaments for $29.99, and they came from a yard sale. Next item also came from a yard sale. It was for a lot of 3 vintage from 1991 Play School. These were called Flip and Fancy dolls. So you could change like their hair pieces, you could change the top of their tops, their shirts, and their bottoms as well to like mix and match, like little different outfits for them. Those sold for $19.99, and I paid $0.25 a piece, so 75 cents for all 3 of those. And the last thing that I have went to a subscriber named Gail. She purchased 3 items. The first 2 were really awesome Christmas stockings. The first one had a Santa on a carousel horse that sold for $24.99, and she also purchased another one that was like an old world looking style Santa, also sold for $24.99, as well as a Torrid Queen of Hearts shirt that sold for $19.99, and all 3 of those pieces I'm pretty sure came from yard sales. So that is everything for this cha-ching. As far as my last 31 days, I'm down 13.3%. So some weeks have been pretty good with sales, and then some weeks I feel like there has been like a little bit of a lull. I actually have been behind on listing. We have been starting to tag things for the outdoor antique flea market that we're going to be doing. So we have been kind of busy with doing that, like taking stuff out of the storage unit. A lot of like really large Halloween and Christmas blow molds is what we've been working on. So we're gonna have a lot of like holiday related things, and I'm gonna probably make another video about this, you know, closer to and, you know, the day that we do it, especially for anyone who, you know, might not see this information. But the outdoor antique flea market, it is Saturday, October 21st at 8 o'clock in the morning. It is at the Gettysburg Outlets. If anyone is close by to Gettysburg, it's a really nice outdoor market. There's a lot of vendors with lots of different stuff, and they typically have it, I don't know if it's every month or close to, but this will be the last one for the year. And this is the first time Eric and I are actually like participating and not just going to like shop for ourselves type of thing. So we've been getting ready for that. So that's one reason why I haven't been listing as much. And then also, like every Tuesday, we have been helping an older lady who we have been buying some stuff from her, but we've also been helping her because she's been ill. She has a lot of like medical issues and that type of thing, and currently right now there's a church that is gathering toys and things of that nature for this Christmas to give to, you know, children who are in families that don't have a lot of money. They do like a whole like toy type of giveaway type of thing. So she's been gathering stuff to give to them, and we've been running it over for her and just helping her move boxes and get things cleared up. She has people coming in to like do her doors, so we're like helping her you know, move stuff and things like that. So it's been really nice. We've created like, you know, a really nice friendship. It's one of those things where, you know, I wasn't expecting it to happen, but it's just, I feel like almost, as weird as it sounds, like it was meant to happen. If you guys remember, because I've talked about it before, where, you know, I went to her yard sale one year, and I bought a bunch of Polly Pockets off of her, and she had said like, oh, I have like lots more, you know, vintage toys and things like that. And then like the following year she didn't have a yard sale, and we were driving by one day because I remember, you know, what house she lived in and everything, because at the time of the yard sale, like, we exchanged numbers and everything, and she had said like she would call me, you know, when she went through other stuff. Well, we stopped the one day, I had Eric stop, and I was like, let me just like go, you know, re-exchange numbers, maybe she misplaced my number, that type of thing. So I went to her house, and her husband answered the door, and I come to find out like she had been in the hospital. Like, I knew she was going in for a surgery at the time of the yard sale, but I guess she went in and they found like all of these things wrong with her. So she had been in the hospital for, you know, quite a while, so she wasn't, you know, well. And you know, her husband asked to like get my number again, you know, once, you know, she was feeling better to like do anything. And so then she called me, and we've just been pretty much like going over to her house every Tuesday. She sometimes sells things. There's sometimes things where she's like not quite certain, you know, she's ready to part with and that type of thing, which is understandable. But she also, you know, had such a scare at like the hospital, and she's, you know, realizing like, okay, maybe now's the time to you know, part with some of this stuff. So we have been, you know, purchasing some stuff off of her, and, you know, also helping her and things like that. And just yesterday we were over there helping her. We took a load over, and then she started to not feel well, and, you know, we did leave. But before that, you know, we had a little moment of, you know, her like thanking me, and we both started crying because like she's just so thankful that, like, you know, we kind of came into her life and was able to help her in doing these things that, you know, she's having obviously trouble with. She does have 2 daughters, but, you know, there's tensions there as far as like, I'm pretty sure the one was kind of like in my position when, you know, my mom and dad were sick, where you just kind of get scared and you almost want to distance yourself a little bit because you're so scared and processing all of that. So like, I understand, you know, how her daughter is feeling, but at the same time, I just want to shake her, like, be there for her right now. Like, right now is when you need to be there for her, but it's not my business. But we had a little like cry session, and, you know, it made me feel so good in the sense that like, she, like, her and her husband, like, kind of remind me of my parents, you know? So it's just nice to be around someone of, you know, what their age group was and things like that. So it's one of those things where I think it was like a meant to happen type of situation. So, you know, I'm thankful for her too. And, you know, her, you know, selling me stuff and that type of thing, and just the relationship that we formed has just been really nice and like heartwarming and that type of thing. But so that's just kind of been, you know, another thing that has been taking up some time of me, like not getting stuff listed. I've been trying to do more whatnot shows and things like that. I actually have a Christmas show scheduled for next week, and then the week after that I'm doing a beauty show, and then probably the week after that is probably going to be a glass show. So I'm trying to just get some stuff out of my house, you know what I mean, because it's just, you know, going to auctions all the time. Yard sale season is pretty much ending, but still, even going to auctions, you just accumulate so much stuff, and I really have to make space for other stuff and that type of thing. You guys all know, anyone who is a reseller understands the whole ordeal of having things that need to be listed and bringing more things in that need to be listed, sorted through, and that type of thing. It's a process. It is an actual process of dealing with it all, and I know anyone out there who is also a reseller totally understands what that means. But that's pretty much everything for this video. I think I rambled for quite some time. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope everyone is doing well. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.